their cars. Well, there are several clean air zones in England. We've been hearing about some of them outside of London. They are in Bath, in Birmingham, in Bradford, Bristol, Portsmouth, Sheffield and Tyneside. Greater Manchester's clean air zone has been postponed. That's under review. Central London has had a clean air zone since 2008. Next Tuesday, August the 29th, it will be expanded to cover all of the London boroughs. In Scotland, Glasgow's low emission zone started charging drivers from this summer. Edinburgh, Dundee and Aberdeen will all have zones in operation from next year. Erin Baker can give us some of the background to what's happening. She's the editorial director at AutoTrader. Erin, hi, thanks for coming on. These zones, they vary a lot, don't they, when it comes to what they charge? I'll just give you an example. Daily entry charges for non-compliant vehicles, £7 for a taxi in Bradford to £100 for a lorry, a bus or a coach in Bristol. But tell us a bit about the history. Why are they being introduced?
Hi, Winifred. Yeah, so the history really is all around improving our air quality. There's little argument against that. We have to improve radically the air quality in our urban areas and our cities. Air pollution limits were set back in 1999 and we should have been meeting those in UK and European cities by 2010. We haven't reached, for the vast majority of cities and towns, we haven't reached those limits, largely due to the fact that cars were designed to pass official exhaust tests but then produce much more air pollution when actually driven on the roads.
So that's a bit of the diesel scandal, isn't it? That if the diesels had delivered in the way we were promised and people bought them in good faith, didn't they, we wouldn't have these air pollution problems, would we? We were conned a bit there.
We'd still have the air pollution problems because we'd still be at a point where we had premature deaths every year due to respiratory problems across our cities that could have been avoided if, for example, by now we were all driving electric cars. You know, we're not, and we're many years off that point. But we are on the road to there, and part of that we do all have to get on board with getting rid of these non-compliant cars in the low emission zones.
Is there any dispute at all about air pollution, the harm it does to our health?
I think that's beyond dispute. I know there are some people out there who are still arguing the data, but I think the data is fairly conclusive. You know, you speak to Public Health England, to Transport for London, to various government bodies and local authorities, and the consensus is that, you know, nitrogen dioxide, carbon monoxide, the particulates that come out of diesel exhausts, they do contribute to asthma, they can be carcinogenic, and they do contribute to respiratory problems.
Now, do low emission zones work? Because we've had listeners come on, the first couple of listeners, Wally and Maureen, saying that all they do is direct the traffic to other areas.
Yes, I was listening to that. Interesting. I think in London, again, the data shows that the ULEZ zone, as it was, and now it's expanded, it does work, because what happens is, what the data seems to show, that even those who don't live in one of the 32 London boroughs that's now covered by the zone, but nonetheless border up against it and have to occasionally travel in, because they know they've got to occasionally travel in and don't want to be hit by that fine or pay £12.50, they are changing to compliant cars that are in line. So the net effect is that everyone around the zone, certainly in London, is transitioning to lower emissions cars, or deciding that electric, which they've been thinking about for some time, now is the time for them to make that switch, albeit that comes at a hefty extra price.
No one likes to have to pay extra money, do they, ever? But has the pandemic and the cost of living squeeze made these charges even more controversial now?
Yes, to a degree, I think both have. We did see, post-pandemic, there's a lot of people who, up until the pandemic, had ditched their cars and were using public transport, decided post-pandemic that they didn't want the health risk that public transport was posing, and actually they went back into car ownership, especially in the under £10,000 bracket. And I think it's important to remember, for a lot of people out there, cars aren't a discretionary purchase that when times are tough they can ditch them. Most people in the country who have a car need a car to get about, because they live in a rural area or they're travelling around the country, and so public transport at the moment isn't good enough.
So what happened with this is that the government was taken to court, wasn't it, about the levels of air pollution in the UK, and there was legislation in 2017 that basically told local authorities that they have to get on and do this, cut the levels of air pollution. Apart from a clean air zone, what else could local authorities be doing?
Well, I think there's carrot and there's stick approach. You cannot have a situation where local authorities are saying, right, we're going to impose a blanket zone now and you've got to pay this amount of money to enter it. And if you don't pay that, you're going to be fined, without some sort of carrot as well. We need more incentives. So, we need far more encouragement for people to go electric. So as well as imposing ULEZ or any sort of low emission zones in various areas, the government and local authorities need to look at, do they make parking free to people who've made the switch to electric or are driving a plug-in hybrid and are on electric when they come into the zone? Do they get, carpool type lanes or car sharing lanes? Should they be ramped up? Is public transport provision, what are we doing about improving that and improving the cleaning up the public transport networks and cycling networks? All those little last mile mobility solutions, are we really looking hard enough at e-mobility solutions and how we open up the likes of e-bikes and e-scooters to the general public? It's a really holistic approach.
Erin Baker from AutoTrader, thanks so much for the minute. I will come back to you. What impact are low emission zones having on you? Give us a call, 03700 100 444.